What's up everyone, I'm D-Hart, and I'm going to crack open this Bakugan Pro Shields of Vestroia starter set that comes with a 40 card deck and 3 Bakugan. Everything you need to start playing the Bakugan Pro TCG. I'm going to look at the cards one by one, talk about what they are, how to use them, and if they are efficient, if they're good, and look at some other comparison cards that you could use to fill your deck as well as you get into this game. So let's get to it. Here are the Bakugan that come in the starter set. We've got Ventus Batrix Ultra. He has a base 500B, 5 damage, 2 green fists. The green fists that he comes with are good because they are gear reduction cores. That means that if he lands on one of those cores, a gear card costs 2 less to play. We'll look at those later. Then we got Pyrus Ryurazu, 300B base, 3 damage, comes with a shield and a green fist, and there are the 2 cores that he comes with right there. And then Aqua Crawler Fusion Bakugan. I love how he looks. The green and blue looks sweet. He starts at 600B, 3 damage. He also comes with a shield and a green fist. You fuse him for 6 energy, and he turns into Trox Time Cyrus. 1400B, 6 damage, which is cool, and 3 Frost Strike. That means that if you play him and you win, your opponent has to play 3 extra energy, doesn't focus, for the flip cards that he wants to use. So it makes your opponent, makes it harder for your opponent to play defense. On a super competitive level, I don't think any of these Bakugan would make it. Trox Cyrus might be the best one that's here. He can get up to 1000B if he lands on a core that's like this. And then if you get to the 6th turn and fuse him for 6 energy, he'd be at 1400 and would get up to, again with his own core, get up to 1800. But by the 6th turn, using all of your energy to do that, while your opponent can use 6 energy to do so much more to get higher than 1800, you'd probably lose that turn. I don't know that he's the super strongest Fusion Bakugan. Almost forgot to mention that Batrix Ultra comes with an Evo card in Fusion Force booster packs, if you can find any of those on the internet anymore, where for 6 energy you can get, 800 more B, so get him up to 1300 B, 12 damage, and when you play this card on that 6th turn for 6 energy, you can destroy all of your opponent's Baku gear. That's a pretty cool gimmick right there. As far as the strength of the Evo goes though, not super strong, and again he only has his green fists, so on the 6th turn paying 6 energy, you're going to be 1300 plus, 100, 150 is 1450. You'd definitely be having to, you would need to share a core from a stronger Bakugan with Maximus Batrix Ultra, and you'd have to be playing specifically for your opponent having good gears. Good situationally, but overall, maybe not an Evo that would be used a lot. Up to you. I don't know. That's just me talking. Maybe you have better ideas of how you want to use these Evos, but there you go. All right, here are the cards in the deck and some other comparison cards from previous decks and sets and waves that can show us how good or not good these cards are. So we have Ventus Rampage, 2 energy for 1 damage for each energy card you have in play. So I think of this card like this. It would only make sense to play it if you have at least 4 energy cards in play. Then you'd get the ratio of 2 energy for 4 damage or 1 energy for 2 damage. And what's cool is if you have 7 or more energy cards, if it gets to the late game, this card also gives your Bakugan Shadow Strike, which means their damage and their B power, their statistics, can't be reduced by cards that reduce those stats. So that's pretty cool. The comparison cards that I have here from other waves are as follows, just for the ratio, right? So 1 energy for 3 damage for Fireball. This gives you 2 for 4 if you have 4 energy cards, or 2 for 6 if you have 6 energy cards. So to get these ratios equal, right, we'd have to play this card with 6 energy for it to be the same value as this card, 1 for 3 energy. Hope that makes sense. Let's look at another one. This Pyrus card is 1 for 2. So that's, like saying 2 for 4 with this card. If there's 4 energy and that's when you play this card, that's this ratio. This Ventus card can do 1 for -4. And this card, if you have 7 or more energy cards in play and gives you Shadow Strike, If you have Shadow Strike, this card wouldn't work. But this is a good ratio, 1 for -4. So you see how this card, Venom Blast, might give you more bang for the buck than this card, but it depends on how you build your deck. If you want boost, if you want Shadow Strike, and if you're going to play a lot of energy cards, because Ventus can also give you extra energy cards faster than your opponent, and we'll look at that later. Then we have Wither, 1 energy for -3, so there's a Darkest card that kind of does that, 1 for 3, which again, this would be 6 energy. Play this card, you get 2 for 6, 1 for 3. Okay, so there's Ventus Rampage. The next card in the Ventus Batrix deck is Solar Wings, 2 for -5. And if you energize this from your hand, you may pay 2 more energy to draw a card. So 2 energy to draw a card is not terrible. Some Aquos cards have a better ratio than that. But there's 2 of these cards that come in the deck, and 2 for -5 is a good card if you're going to play, slow the game down. If you're going to build up for mid-game or late game, if you're going a more a slow pace than your opponent, you want to slow the game down, get some of these cards. You take less damage from them early on. Some comparison cards for Solar Wings. Again, for ratios, you see that this gives you 2 for -5. This old Battle Planet, this was the first set, it gives you 2 for 3. So already Solar Wings is a better ratio than Smash, old card. Another somewhat older card, but a little bit newer than the Smash card, gives you 2 for 5, Wreathed in Flame from Age of Arliss. So comparable, Pyrus card, 2 for 5, 2 for 5. But this one also lets you draw a card if you energize it from your hand and pay 2. So fun bonus there. And I forgot to mention, Ventus Rampage is a rare card, RA down there. He's rare. Solar Wings was common. So there's 2 Solar Wings. There's 1 Ventus Rampage. Okay, the next card in the deck is Vicious Defense, 3 energy for -200 and -6. I really like this card. This is a common card. There's 2 of them. This card is cool because it lets you do 2 things, right? You could try to win a B power battle, and if this ratio, 3 energy for 200 B, which is very bad, it's a bad ratio, low efficiency. If it doesn't work to win you the battle on the 3rd turn with 3 energy, you can still slow the game down with -6. And sometimes with these cards that do this, I like to break up the energy up here and divide it between the bonuses that you're getting, just to see if this card is efficient or not. So let's say we have 3, we're going to use 1 of those 3 and just say that that 1 energy is giving us -200. So 1 energy for -200 is okay. That's a 1 for 2 ratio trade, 1 energy for 200 B. The other 2 energy is giving us -6, and 2 energy for -6 is the same thing as 1 energy for -3. So that's not a bad ratio either. That was the energy ratio of some of these other cards that we were just looking at. There's a lot of cards like that. That's not terrible. So this card in itself isn't that inefficient, and it gives you flexibility. So it's fun to have that flexible card if you want to use it. And I think I already said it's a common card. So 2 of those. The comparison cards, I think for those ratios, just to show you, are here's a Pyrus card Heat, 1 for 2. Darkest card Prismatic Shield, 1 for 2. Flooding Waters gives you 1 for 2, but then it also gives you another 200 for each Aquos you have on your team. So this could be 1 for 2, 1 for 4, or 1 for 6. This is helping this, if you want to do mono Aquos, this card is awesome for that. Another Aquos card that specializes in some cool B power boosts. It could be 1 energy for 400 B if you've played another card that turn. So showing some of those base ratios and then bonus B power boosts that you can get if you have some of these Aquos cards. So there's those. The next card in this deck is Ventus Venom. It's an awesome rare down there, AR, 4 energy, where you must reroll your Bakugan. If you open on the reroll, you may energize the top 2 cards of your deck uncharged, then 100 B for each energy card you have in play. So figuring out the efficiency of this card, first of all, you get to reroll your Bakugan, so that's a good thing. You get to reroll. 4th turn, 4 energy. If you energize this, if you play this card on the 6th turn, when you have 6 energy cards, you would open on the reroll, energize 2 more cards, and have 8 energy. So you would get 4 energy cost for 800 B in that case, if you played on the 6th turn. and that's a ratio of 1 energy for 200B. So that's kind of the minimum I would say that this card becomes efficient, is the 6th turn. If you played it on the 8th turn, you landed the reroll and you got 2 more energy cards, then you'd have 10 energy and a 4 energy cost for 1000B, because you have 10 energy, 100 each. That's, you know, that's better than 1 for 2. Now you're getting up to the closer to the 1 for 3, one energy for 300B, excuse me. So this is another late game card. The later you play this, the better. There's only 1 of these cards in the deck. Then we have 2 Ventus Distraction, 7 energy for -12 and draw 1. So this is another late game card. 7 energy is pretty late, and it's giving you -12. So that's not quite 1 energy for -2. 1 energy for -2 would have been -14 damage, but they're taking in the cost of drawing a card. So if we split this up and we say that 6 of the energy is going to -12, well, that's the ratio of 1 energy for -2. And then the last energy here would be 1 to draw a card. So the card is not wholly inefficient. It costs a lot to do the sort of things that other cards do earlier on for cheaper, right? So that's what this card is. Honestly, for me, I don't know that I don't know. Maybe I would use it. The 7th turn to do this, you're basically just playing defense. You know you're going to lose the battle. You're just playing defense to not take any damage and to draw a card. That's what that is. And it could work. It could work just fine. Savage Swarm, there's 2 of these. These are rare cards. 3 energy for this Baku gear. And it says boost. When you play this, if you have 7 or more energy cards in play, give a Bakugan plus 500. So if you're waiting for the 7th turn, or again, if you're Ventus and you have energized cards earlier in the game, and you have more energy than your opponent quicker, it might be faster than the 7th turn. But when you play this, you get 500 plus the 100. So the turn you play it, if you have boost, it's essentially a 3 energy for 600B that turn. That is a good, efficient ratio for a gear, to double the B of the energy cost for a gear. That's pretty cool. So it's a good action card. It's a basic action card, you know, 3 energy for 600B, and then ongoing, 104 damage. So the damage, it's a damage gear. And also, if you split up the energy for that first turn boost, let's say, 3 for 600 and 4, you might split that up to say 2 of the energy is going towards B power. So 2 for 6 is a 1 energy for 300B ratio. That's good. And the other 1 energy that we have left over is going to 4 damage, 1 for 4. So this becomes another super efficient dual, purpose B and damage gear card. And then there's 1 armor rating too. So this armor rating means that if you lost the battle and you're flipping cards for damage, if you flip it, this counts as a card, and then the armor counts as another card. So I would say, flip it 1, 2 for the armor rating, 3, 4 for the armor rating. So 2 damage, 4 damage becomes 2 if these 2 cards were flipped back to back. So it's a cool gear, not terrible. Gaia Rockets. There's 1 copy of this. It's super rare. He's a pretty cool gear. I really like him. I've used him in a deck before. He's so expensive, 7 energy, but you do get 700B. And I think a gear, when it gives you the amount of B that it costs to play the card, is about as efficient as a lot of them get, if you're taking out of consideration some of the text that they have in other bonuses. So that means the first turn it's 7 for 705. But if you have this gear in turn for 2 plays, and some of these cores in this deck have a gear reduction core, so you could play this card in the 5th turn. If you roll onto this core, it would cost you 5 energy instead of 7. And then all of a sudden you have a better bonus for 5 for 700. But let's say this gear is in play for 2 turns. You play it 1 turn, then it's in play for a 2nd turn. Then all of a sudden the efficiency becomes 7 energy for 1400B, because you have it for 2 turns, but you only had to pay 7 for it, right? Because it just stays attached on that Bakugan. Then you have a ratio efficiency of 1 energy for 200B. For the second turn, the third turn that it's in play, it becomes a 1 energy for 300 B. And that's just with B power ratios. I didn't even split it up yet to get the damage boost too. So without going into all that detail, I think it's a cool card. It's an efficient card. It's just really expensive. So if you're playing that way, if you're playing the late game, slow down, maybe lose some turns up front, and then you gear up to attach that guy or any other expensive gears like that. It can be cool. And I put this down without even looking at the text. So what does the text say? When this flips from your deck, you may pay 2 energy to energize a card from your hand uncharged. So if you're doing damage, if someone is doing damage to you, and you flip this for damage, you can stop for a second. You can pay 2 energy, tap 2 energy, and then you can just choose a card in your hand and energize it. And that's one of the ways that Ventus lets you ramp up energy, build up energy. So there's 1 copy of Gaia Rockets. Getting into the Aquos cards, we have the low cost to the high cost, Aquos Overwhelm. There's 2 of these. They're common. 1 energy for 200 B. And then boost, if you get up to 7 energy cards, it's 1 for 600. Now that ratio is awesome. There are some cards that give you 1 for minus 500, 1 for 500 if you can do another thing, like show a card in your hand that costs a certain amount of energy. But this card on its own, if you get to that late game or mid game, all of a sudden you get 1 for 600. That is an amazing, efficient card. Good card. You just have to wait to get up that high. That's got to be your deck strategy. So showing some of those examples of cards that help you get the boost to get 7 energy faster if you're unfamiliar. See, these are some Ventus cards. So 3 energy, you can reroll your Bakugan and energize this card uncharged. So you turn it into energy. So you're 1 ahead of your opponent the turn you play that. If you do a card like this, the same thing. You pay 2 energy and you just energize it uncharged sideways for that turn. You're up in energy. And then a card like this, so 0 for 2 damage, and then you play that card, and then you can choose in your hand to energize another card uncharged. So these are some ways that Ventus can just ramp up energy, try to get to boost for some of these cards in this deck. So this is like a deck that would benefit from ramping up energy, getting to boost. The next Aquos card, there's 2 of them, Aqua Crawler, 2 energy for 400 B. And if you energize this from your hand, you may pay 2 to draw 1. So every turn you get to energize a card, put it into your energy pile over there. If you do that, you can just pay 2, draw another card. So that's an interesting way to have card draw power for this deck for Aquos. Then we have Improvised Armor, next action card, 3 energy for 2 damage and draw 2. And again, if we break this card up, its energy, we could say 1 energy of the 3 goes to the 2 damage. So 1 for 2, that's a pretty basic trade-off, that's okay. And the other 2 energy goes to drawing 2. So 2 energy for drawing 2 cards. That is actually a good card draw ratio. So this card it works well for that dual purpose. So here's some examples of other efficient, or just illustrating how much energy you have to pay to draw cards in Aquos. Baku Treasure, 0 energy to draw 1 card. This is like a unicorn card. There's no other card like that. 1 energy to have 1 damage and draw 1. 1 energy to draw and reroll. So all these cards have 1 energy to do something and draw. This card is another one that says 1 energy for 200 B and you may reroll. And then we have a 1 energy for 100 and draw. So you can kind of see how 1 energy a lot of the time equates to drawing 1 card, or 0 for 1. So when we have this card, Improvised Armor, that's 3, we're going to pretend it's 2 energy for drawing 2 because the other energy is for the damage. It's a normal Aquos draw card, so I think it's fine. I don't know if it's good or bad. It's just it's the right efficient level. Then we have this action card for just B power, 3 energy for 700. It's a good card because it's better than the 1 energy for 200 B. It's a little bit higher than that. It's a little bit higher than 600 B would have been that level. So it's a good card. I'm fine with it. But to show you some stronger cards, and I have a ton of these, so we'll go through this quick, what other B cards can look like for the same efficiency. So Flip Strike is 3 for 7. Show this again really quick, remind us, 3 for 7. If you're playing Darkus Haos, you can play this card 3 for 8. If you're playing Darkus Aquos, you can play another 3 for 8. Same card, just different factions that you're playing. Rite of Darkus is 2 for 6, which is a 1 for 300 and a damage built in there. So he might take he's winning so far with the efficiency of these cards. But then we get into these cards like Sonic Thrash, 2 for -600. Oh no, that's not what I thought it was. 2 for 600 and look, which means you can look at the top card of your deck and then put it at the bottom, or keep it there if you want. It was this card, 2 for 7. So that's a really good ratio where you don't have to do anything special to just get a really efficient trade. 2 for 7. You know, so there's 2 for 6, 3 for 8, 2 for 6. Here's 2 for -700. And then, you know, everybody's favorite best energy card, Pyro Obliterator, that can't be countered by Shadow Strike because it's not a negate here, or not a negate, reduce the damage. 2 for 700 is really strong. Here's one that's 3 for 6, an older card. It's that 1 energy for 300 ratio. Here's a 4 for 7, which is an old card, and that would just be terrible. You wouldn't run Magma Boost. You would run Flame Wave, or you would run Pyro Obliterator. Then we have some Aquos cards that are special, like Wave Slash, where you can pay 3 energy for 1000 B, which is more than 1 energy for 300 B if you played another card that turn. So if you play a 1-cost card, you could, with 4 energy, with this card, you've got 4 energy for, you know, 1200, or 4 energy for 1600 if you have boost. So that's some pretty big B boosting efficient card trades there. And then this older one too, Unstoppable, 3 energy for 600. That's 1 energy for 300. And then if you're in a Green Fist, you get that 2 Frost Strike bonus. So just examples of what those efficiency ratios can look like for B power cards, and why Flip Strike is just fine. It's not the best, it's not the worst. It's worth running in a deck. It's okay. Okay, next card in here, a super rare, Impaling Icicles. For 7 energy, there's 7 Frost Strike. So if you get to the 7th turn and you just, and let's just say you just roll and you win because your Bakugan had higher B, maybe they have a gear or something. I mean, you're paying all of your energy that turn to just make your opponent have to pay 7 more energy for a flip card if they play it. This is like the winning card. You're not going to use this card if you have to compete with your opponent to win a B power battle. This is like if they didn't open on the roll or something, or if you know they don't have any cards and your Bakugan opens and has a higher B power. So it's a winning card. But the efficiency trade-off of 1 energy for 1 Frost Strike, let's just look at some more examples of what cards can do for that. This Hero D for 4 energy gives your Bakugan 1 Frost Strike all the time. This Aquos card, Aqua Freeze Slide, is a super rare for 5 energy. You get 500 B, 5 damage, and 5 Frost Strike. So, looking at, you know, what is worth more bang for your buck, I would say Aqua Freeze Slide would be much better than Impaling Icicles, because you get so much more out of it. You know, 5, 5, 5 versus 7 for 7 of just Frost Strike. So I would use this over this if you could, but either way, I think a lot of competitive decks don't even get into these because you need all of your energy to do things like to help you win the battle and not get Frost Strike. But here's another example, Mud Pit, 4 energy for 400 B, and then if you play another card, you get 4 Frost Strike. So that's kind of 1 for 1 too, if you meet those requirements. Here was 1 energy for 1 Frost Strike. And then Liquid Strike is 2 for 3. 2 energy for 3 Frost Strike. So you might be better if you have the ability to run this card by itself, or maybe 2 copies instead of just 1 copy of Impaling Icicles. But let's be honest, it looks cool. It looks cool. The shininess of it looks cool. I like how it looks. Okay, next card here in the deck, we have Crest Stormers, 4 energy for 400 B, 2 damage, and 2 armor rating. And like we were saying before, 4 energy for 400 B for a gear is really good. That's a good ratio. That's a good trade. The second turn, it becomes 1 energy for 200 B ratio. The longer it's in play, the better it is. And then if it is flipping from your deck when someone is doing damage to you, you can pay 2 energy to draw a card. So dual purpose there. It's got 2 armor, which is also really cool. That's a good amount of armor for a card that gives you 4 energy for 400 B. So all around, this is a strong Aquos gear card. If you have these, they're worth running. And then the next Aquos gear here is one that I really like too. I like these expensive gears because I like to play decks that have cores that do the gear reductions. That's just meta. I think a lot of people do that anyways too. So 6 energy for 600 B, 6 damage. Just like we said, you're doubling up on damage in B. The ratios are awesome the second turn, the third turn, and then it also has 2 armor rating. So it helps you with defense. It makes you last in the game longer. So cool, Telekinesis Crown. Getting into some of the Pyrus cards. There aren't a lot of them in here, but here they are. Pyrus Spark, 3 energy for 300 B and double strike. Double strike means that your Bakugan's damage is doubled when they're doing damage. So if Batrix Ultra wins and then you play this card, his 5 would turn into 10. It just doubles. Paying 3 energy for that. If you're breaking this up, you could say, you know, 2 of the energy goes to 300B and 1 goes to double strike. Let's just look at some other examples and see if that's efficient or not. Here they are right here. So these cards will give you 2 energy for double strike and shadow strike. You could potentially play this free if you have other cards that have rapid fire there on the bottom. That energy could be like 1 energy for double strike, 1 energy for shadow strike. This one is 2 energy for just double strike. So when you look at this card, that kind of makes sense. The energy trade-off isn't that bad. Pyrus Spark, 3 for 300 and double strike is like saying 2 of the energy goes to 300B, 1 goes to double strike. That's not a good trade-off for B power though. So I don't know that Pyrus Spark is a really good, efficient card for the energy cost. Probably not. The next Pyrus card is Magmagon. 6 energy for 1200B is a card that is 1 energy for 200. Sometimes it's nice, you know, even though you could have better ratioed cards and you could have lower cost cards, sometimes it is nice to do all of that with just 1 card, you know, instead of having to use 2 or 3 cards in your turn that are low cost energy to get up to 1200. You can just do it all with 1 card. That way you're not using so many cards and maintaining, you know, a hand after playing 1 card, still having cards left over to play. That's what I think about some of these cards that cost more for the B power. But the ratio isn't spectacular. It's just a very basic 1 energy for 200B. Then we have Hook Trap on the other end, 4 energy for minus 1200, and it's a non-Aquos, non-Ventus, so it is a little bit restricting on who you can play this card on. But if you play it on Darkus, Pyrus, or Heos, or Aurelus, you're getting the trade-off of 1 energy for 300B, instead of like with Magmagon, 1 energy for 200. So this is a super cool, efficient card if you are playing someone that's not playing Aquos or Ventus. Hook Trap, and it was a common card. I think I've been missing out on saying what all the rarities of the cards are. Hopefully you've looked at that on your own. This is a really cool card and worth buying this starter set for itself. Swamp Trap, 4 energy, negate an action card and recharge up to 4 energy cards. That means that on the 4th turn, if you play this card, if you have 4 energy, you play it for free because it costs 4 and then you recharge those 4 and you get to still play cards, and it's just a free negate. You have to wait until the 4th turn, and it only can be an action card, so it won't negate hero cards or gear cards or evil cards. But it can be super annoying to play against. I played against this once against Flame Breather from our channel, and it just sucks. A free negate card. He still has all the energy left to beat you with other cards that he needs. If we're looking at other negate cards and the ratios, these are just 3 common negate cards for Aquos. So 4 energy for Sinkhole lets you negate a hero or an action. 3 energy for Triple Blast Cannon lets you negate an action. And 2 energy lets you negate an action that costs 3 or less with Blinding Ink. So 4, you know, going back to the same thing I just said, 4 to negate a card for free if you have 4 energy is awesome and better ratio than these 3. So play Swamp Trap, but you just have to wait on it. Okay, the next card in here, Aquos Ventus, is Multi-Strike, 5 energy for 300 and draw 3. So breaking up this energy to see if it's efficient or not. We could say that 2 of the energy goes to 300B, which is a bad energy cost to B ratio. And the other 3 remaining goes to drawing 3 cards. 1 energy per 1 card to draw. It's not spectacular. You are drawing 3 cards on the 5th turn and still getting some B power. But the B power bonus is small compared to what the average drawing a card for an energy cost is. So, there you go. Make your decision if you want to use that or not. I'd probably use a different draw card than that though. And then for the flips, we have 1 energy to stop Pyrus or Fusion. So this is good against playing against Fusion Bakugan. You stop them for 1 energy. That is nice. Good trade. 1 energy, again, same thing, stopping Aquos or a Fusion. That's the Aquos version of it. So, and Ventus Too Fast, 4 energy for stopping a non-fusion. And if you do, you get to energize this card uncharged. 4 energy to stop a non-fusion is expensive. It costs a lot of energy. On the 4th turn, you're basically saying, I know I'm going to lose, and I hope I'm going to get this flip card and play it against the non-fusion. And energizing it is cool. I kind of think there'd be better cards to use to get energy and save your energy on, or your card selection on better flip cards than this one, because this is just expensive. But there you go. And then the last 2 cards in here, Sneaky Swid, last flips, are 4 energy to stop a non-fusion Bakugan, and then draw a card if you do. So you can see the gimmick here. You're stopping the non-fusion, and in this one you get extra energy. This one you draw a card. So there is the deck, the Ventus Batrix Ultra Shield of Vestroia starter deck. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think this deck is good? Is it worth buying? Would you go out and get it? I got it for some of these cards that I know I love. Live on, Bakugan TCG.